Your Excellencies, heads of states, presidents and former presidents, Your Excellency, Chair of the Africa Food Prize Committee, Chairman of the AGRA Board, Excellencies, Honorable Ministers, heads of institutions, members of the Diplomatic Corps, Madam President of AGRA, esteemed colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Before I go into my statement, let me add IFAD's figure to the commitments that Mr. Chairman announced. As a matter of policy, IFAD spends 50% of its total investment in Africa, currently at roughly 1.1 billion a year. IFAD commits for the next two cycles, 2016 to 2018, 2019 to 2021, $550 million a year. Now, I must say how deeply grateful for the honor that you are bestowing on me today. I would like to express my thanks to the members of the selection committee who judged me worthy of this inaugural Africa Food Prize. I would also like to thank those individuals who so kindly nominated me for this prize. My deepest gratitude go to the rural people of Africa, my foremost partners in agriculture and development for all the years of my professional life. Let me take a moment to thank my wife, Juliana, my partner and constant friend in life and work. But I also owe her an apology. Yesterday, instead of celebrating our 25th wedding anniversary, I left home at 5 a.m. to catch a flight on my way to Nairobi. There are not too many events in life that compel you to sacrifice your silver anniversary celebrations. But here I am. This prize is the culmination of a 40-year professional career dedicated to agriculture, agricultural research, and African agriculture in particular. It comes just a few months before my retirement from IFAD. But even as I talk of retirement, I'm not going to be out of a job. This prize is also a call to action. So I hope that you won't mind if I speak open-heartedly this evening. There is no doubt that Africa has made progress at the policy level, regionally and continentally. And there have been major achievements, including the Maputo Declaration of 2003, the Malabo Declaration of 2014, and of course, the CADAP compacts of more than 20 countries to accelerate agricultural development. However, the question remains, what do we actually have to show for all these declarations, commitments, and frameworks? What are the tangible results on the ground? Can we say that there has been progress when 58 million of our children suffer from stunting and 43% of our people live in extreme poverty? When Africa is the only region in the world where the number of people living in absolute poverty has actually grown since 1990, and currently is at 330 million inhabitants. Africa has such enormous potential, there's no doubt. It's a land rich in resources, minerals, oil, and gas. A continent blessed with fertile land, abundant rainfall, excess sunshine, and an energetic, youthful population. Can we say that there has been progress when a region as rich as Africa is unable to feed itself? Are we really proud to be Africans? I can remember a time just a few decades ago when countries like Brazil, Cambodia, China, India, Korea were in deep crisis. In those years, Africa was a beacon of hope. Where did we go wrong? The answer, I think, and I will speak plainly, is both simple and devastating. Lack of commitment. Commitment, visionary leadership at all levels of our society. Lack of national pride. Are we proud to be Africans? And a blind eye to greed and corruption. For decades, we have wasted opportunities, we Africans. We have squandered our potential. Economies based on extractive industries and commodities have made a few people very rich and left hundreds of millions of our people in hunger, poverty, and squalor. And today, when food security is of global concern, there is a growing danger that the richness of Africa's agricultural land will be captured and exploited, but not by Africans for Africans, but by outsiders for foreign markets. Now, if you choose to rent out your bedroom, do you blame your tenant if you have to sleep on the veranda? But at the same time, Africa's annual food import bill is $35 billion, projected to $100 billion before 2030. Do we know what that means? It means that Africans are creating jobs in other countries, in Europe, in Asia, in the Americas, to grow and process our food when millions of our young people are unemployed and our region suffers the highest youth working poverty rates in the world. This is money that should be fueling Africa's growth, creating wealth, employment, and opportunity. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in my years as the head of the International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD, I have traveled the world. I have traveled the length and breadth of this continent, from Senegal to Zanzibar, from Rabat to Cape Town. And I know that our continent is teeming with opportunity. I have met with all levels of government, civil society, private sector, and farmers, rural communities, to spread the message that agricultural development can change lives and lead to economic prosperity because it is a business. But it has to be centered on smallholder producers because the agricultural landscape is made mostly of small producers. But I have seen over and over again that when we invest in rural people, particularly in women, it generates huge dividends. For we know that no nation has transformed itself without giving women the same rights and opportunities as men. I don't think I need to convince anyone here today about the importance of small-scale agriculture to food security and nutrition to economic growth, social well-being, and to vibrant, cohesive communities. But agricultural development alone does not and will not transform nations. Transformation requires good governance, transparency, and accountability. It requires strong institutions, the rule of law, and the protection of the rights of the most vulnerable. And only then can the benefits of agricultural development be fully realized. And change cannot be imposed from outside. And I have said it before, development is not something we do for people or to people. Development is something people do for themselves. Every tree, every plant must be fully rooted in its own soil to flourish. The same is true with nations. The same is true for Africa. Africa's transformation must begin and end here on our own African soil, not at meetings and conferences at capitals of our development partners. All said, I remain the ultimate optimist. And so, I'm happy to say that we are beginning to see the beginnings of this transformation. As we celebrate today's award, let me share with you some remarkable success stories that I too have witnessed. Just last month, I was in Liberia and Sierra Leone, two countries that have suffered multiple shocks from civil war, Ebola, and the effects of falling commodity prices. Yet I met Africans at all levels of our society who are looking to the future, who see a new era opening up, and who have the hopes and dreams to change their lives and the world. And from my own country, Nigeria, only a couple of weeks ago, I received a letter from a young beekeeper named Mr. Kingsley. With the help of an IFAD-supported project, Mr. Kingsley had gone from a few beehives to over 400. He was writing not only to thank IFAD, but to tell me that his honey had won a competition and was now registered for export to the European Union. And I can tell you it is the best honey I have ever tasted because I got one sample. I'm also inspired by projects here in Kenya where 120,000 farmers are being trained in dairy production. In fact, the Kenya dairy industry is a smallholder success story, with 80% of Kenya's milk being provided by over 1 million smallholder farmers. It is stories like these that give me hope. And it is also very heartening to see how African institutions with the right leadership are taking charge of African development. FARA, the Forum for Agricultural Research in Africa, the Africa Rice Center, the Food and Agricultural Research Policy Network, FANPAN, and of course our own African Development Bank, to name just a few. And we also have fine examples from science, development, business, and industry, where Africans are making their own mark. In Monty Patrick Jones of Sierra Leone, the scientist and father of Nerika rice. Akinwumi Adesina, president of the African Development Bank. Agnes Kalibata of AGRA. Strive Masiyiwa of Econet. Aliu Dangote of the Dangote Group. And philanthropists like Mo Ibrahim. We need more people of their caliber. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, yes, Africa can feed itself. Of this, I'm sure. And I look forward to the day when I can say that Africa is feeding itself, and doing so with the full involvement of our continent's smallholder farmers. But let me be clear, it will not be done by yesterday's generation of farmers, who are on the average 60 years old. It will be done by young women and men of today, with their energy, creativity, and drive, who will need to feed the Africa of tomorrow. But to succeed, they will need opportunities, they will need inspiration, they will need resources, and above all, they will need hope. Because hopelessness deprives the human spirit of the will to survive and leads to desperation and acts of destruction. Now, those of us like myself who have been fortunate to achieve so much over a rich and full lifetime must now do everything in our power to provide our young people with opportunity and hope. We owe it to the 370 million young Africans who will enter the labor market by 2030, the young entrepreneurs and leaders of an emerging Africa who hold our future in their hands. We owe it to our hard-working and resilient rural women, mothers, wives, sisters, and daughters, to whom I dedicate this prize. With this prize, I pledge to continue to support them by coaching, mentoring, and inspiring our younger generation in building a better and brighter future for this continent, our Africa. I thank you all.